Is it possible to have the wrong friends at the right time? What's going on, everybody? It's Willie Robbins III, aka Pastor Will. Welcome to the Soul Fuel Podcast. This is episode 4. I'm coming from a place of experience when I left Nashville, Tennessee to pursue my dream in filmmaking and Hollywood. And in moving, I didn't know anybody. I was in California with a family member. My wife and I drove to Los Angeles, Rancho Cucamonga to be exact. I didn't know that was a real place. I thought it was just in next Friday, but it's a real place. We drove, and it took us about 27 hours, the whole ride, right? I drove the majority of the way because I was excited. And if you listen to a previous episode, I talk about my frustration with church and how I didn't really care to be in that environment anymore. I love the Lord, always loved the Lord, but I just felt that it was time for me to pursue my dreams in filmmaking and directing and even acting. And so after some months pass in 2020, COVID hits, we hit the road. We get to California. I am taking a subsidized company leave of absence, and I was working for an airline. And so it was easy for me to fly my wife back to Tennessee while I was in California. So while in California, I'm staying with a family member, paying for a room to stay with them because my Airbnb canceled. They were scared. So they canceled, and it was understandable because COVID had started going super hard in April of 2020. And so as I was getting used to being in California and driving around and getting lost in different places, I thought it was really cool. You know, I had been to Los Angeles before, but where I was staying in Rancho Cucamonga was about 40 to 45 minutes away from Burbank and downtown Los Angeles. And so just to spare all of the unnecessary details of staying, we pretty much know that we were in a stay-at-home order. Couldn't really go anywhere. The gym was open. There was a couple of things that were still open. Just essential places were open. And I was spending time with my cousin. We were recording music, and I was being creative. I wrote a screenplay. I finished a screenplay that I had started earlier that year. And I decided, you know, I wanted to get back into acting to exercise what I'm good at. I've always been a decent actor. Well, let the people who came out to my shows, to the stage plays that I did around the city, even some of the films that I've done or been in or whatnot, I've been decent. So as a director, I wanted to be better. And the only way to get better is to get into the mind of an actor, to delve into the mind of an actor even more than I had already done, because I was, you know, once you're an actor, you're always an actor. The chops never leave. It's kind of like riding a bike, right? So I get into this class. It was a friend of mine in LA, and I knew him from Tennessee. He's originally from Detroit. Shout out to my brother. But he had been in LA. His wife and his daughter, who's an actress, a phenomenal young actress, moved there back in 2015, right? And they ended up staying, and they were kind of like my muse. Like, they really inspired me. You know, they weren't rich or anything like that, but they went because their daughter had a dream, and they were very supportive and very protective. And so I, through him, met a acting teacher, an acting coach, who was the coach to Tyrese, Kelly Rowland, and all of these things. So I went into that class, and they had very phenomenal talent there. People from all over the states. People who were aspiring to be actors. People who really wanted it. And so they were out here in this acting class, and it's crazy, y'all, because COVID is happening. COVID is happening, but yet there is an acting class that is happening during COVID. And I think this was around August, September. And so I started taking the drive. I enrolled in the class, and because my buddy, Harold, I could say his name, Harold, he was already locked in with the teacher and everything, and he was shooting some content prior to COVID hitting and COVID doing what it did. And so he introduced me to the guy, and in order to really get into that circle, so to speak, I had to pay to take the class. And so I had no problem with it because I wanted to take an acting class anyway. So I paid to take the acting class, and everybody in there is cool. It's people from Jacksonville, it's people from Atlanta, people from Chicago, Philly. And it was a dope experience. And after being alone for so long, now, mind you, I'm talking to my wife and things of that nature throughout my time in California. We, talking every day. When I was in the acting class, I zoned out because I was around people who spoke my language, right? We breathe acting. We love story, right? And that's why I love reading the Bible now, because I'm able to take my gift and my talent and apply it to scripture in bringing characters to life. And so it's always been in me, right? It's always been in me. So while I'm watching these people, we would do these improvisation warm-ups. We had all these different types of warm-ups where we had to learn scenes from other movies, but we had to make different choices than the actors made in the actual movie. I'll never forget, I did a scene with a young lady from, I can't think of the movie, Leonardo DiCaprio, and basically he spazzes out in the scene. He goes crazy. I think we all had the options to pick one, and so I picked the most difficult scene, and we killed it. I got some notes on what I could have did better, but we kind of killed it. And so each and every class was on a Thursday night. So and this is Thursday night when I'm recording. That's crazy. But each class was on a Thursday night, and I just remember after being shut up in the room all day, and after kicking it with my cousin and working out, I wanted to be around my people. My people. When I say my people, I mean my acting people. And so every time I showed up, I was just I was excited. I'd never been that excited before. Well, I take that back. I was always excited to go to acting class in high school. I had acting class in high school. Even theater rehearsal. I love the process. I love the process as an actor in preparing for something. And so I love the challenge of memorizing scripts and lines and things. And so that was always fun to me. That was always fun. And so after showing up time after time, I started getting cool with everybody. Certain people were, I'm not going to say any names, but because some of them are popping now, but some of these guys that were in the class, they were super cool. Some were a little seemed stuck up, but you had to get to know them for them to kind of break out of their shell. And so and this is what I learned about me. This is one of the things that I learned about me is that when I'm around, I should say when I was, because this is past tense, because being deeper in Christ, mind you, I need you to understand my mindset in Christianity and my faith at this point. Like, I love the Lord, but I love my dream more. Can I just be honest? I love the idea of me being in LA more than serving the Lord. And I've been a preacher since 2010. 2010, January, I accepted my call to the ministry. And I preached my first sermon in February. My trial sermon was in like February or something like that. And I gave my life to Christ 2009, December 31st. Watch night service. If anybody knows what watch night service is, you know what I'm talking about. So I was kind of burned out and jaded on church. And I talked about this in episode 2. I was kind of jaded on it. And so I was good on that. Like I love the Lord. Like I worship and adore you. All that, kinda. So this is, again, what I learned about me in this moment. I didn't really catch on to it until after all of this stuff went down. All of these things happened. I learned that when I'm around people that do what I love, I try to hold back and downplay my skill and my talent while at the same time trying to make it known. I hope that makes sense. I would try to make it known because I didn't want to be a turnoff to anybody. Like, yeah, he think he blah, 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 blah. I didn't want anybody to think that. So I would kind of downplay my skill, my talent. But when it was time to show up, I felt like I was doing too much. Like, for real, I feel like I was doing too much. Like, this is this project. Oh, and then I did this one. And then I did this one. And then I did this. Oh, and check out this one. And I was just doing too much, like laying it on thick, as they say. And so nobody ever expressed a problem with that. Nobody ever did. And so whatever you are not aware of, you won't fix it. Whatever you're not aware of, you won't fix it. And so I never fixed it, but I'm moving forward and I'm progressing in building relationships. I met some people that were from my hometown, some people that I met through other talented individuals that I knew. And we were like passing each other through like the people we knew, if that makes sense. And so finally we get to a place and a point where we want to make a project. Everybody wants to make a project. And so here I am trying to, and what I didn't realize is that most of these people are younger than me. Most of these people are younger than me by about 2, 3, 4, 5 years, like probably 2 to 5 years younger than me. And I have a different life. I have a different background, right? I know better. I know about not being unequally yoked with unbelievers. I know, and I wasn't sure. I think that it was up in the air that they believed in God, that they had some type of relationship, or as far as we know, as far as I knew. And so it came time to do a project. And there was this one individual who has been on some stuff, been in some projects, and he was a cool guy. And then he invites me to his place. He had a place like downtown LA. And so I go. He was a heavy smoker, right? And he would put it out, respectfully, he would put it out. Like I said, he had a good heart. What I thought, he had a good heart. And that's not to say that he doesn't because of what happened, but he invites me over, and, you know, I'll never forget, he was playing Call of Duty. And he was more into Call of Duty than his guest, and I was his guest, and he had a studio apartment. So it wasn't like no room. It's like when you sit in his living room, you're sitting in his room. It was like the pull-out couch and all of that. It was a nice little situation for a bachelor, right? And so, but I'm over there, you know, we kicking it, and finally we talk acting or whatever, and he apologized for like not being more of a better host, and I was like, nah, you good. And so we talk acting, and we talk, you know, he's just trying to get to know me, and I'm trying to get to know him, and I'm just like, okay, cool, he seemed like a cool dude. So he lets me know, like, he has his ways of letting me know that he's cool with certain people, certain actors. A particular actor from Living Single, he actually talked to the person on the phone. Not saying no names. But he talked to them on the phone, and he saw all of my work. He thought I was dope, you know, and then, you know, he even began to talk about some of the people that were in the class. Some of the people, one guy that was, I mean, like ahead of the class, like he had been like hardcore acting. And by the way, this is the guy who I was watching Netflix and randomly saw dude, and I had shot him a text. I was like, bro, congratulations, you know, because I don't keep up with him like that, but he was, you know, I mean, he's top tier, like a top tier actor, right? He's a top tier actor. And so he starts to talk about this individual, and I'm like, okay, and it's kind of negative. He says they're from the same area, and I'm like, okay, all right, cool. You know, I'm not really, you know, I'm not really reading it because I didn't know either one of them like that, but I knew that the other guy who would also do the warm-ups in class, he was really cool. And I really took to him because he took his craft super serious. He took it super serious. And so knowing that he took it serious, you know, I had like a high respect for him. It's not that I respected him more than anybody else, but they were both like everybody in the class were dope actors, but he just like really stood out as a filmmaker. I'm like, man, I want to work with him. I even want to act with him. But so he's talking about him, and I'm like, well, that's kind of crazy. Like, he knows him, but he's telling me somebody he don't really know that well. He's talking about this guy. And so I never said anything about it. I took it in. And then he tells me that he was jealous of me. And he said it in a playful manner. He says it in a playful manner. And I'm like, okay, man, you crazy. You crazy. You're like, nah, for real, because you got a good voice, and you know what I'm saying? You can act. You cold with the camera. Like, for real. And again, I laugh it off. I don't think nothing about it. But he said something right there. He said something right there. There's a point. Let me stop right there and tell you, when somebody, what Maya Angelou said, she said, when somebody shows you who they really are, believe them. Jesus said that you will know them by their what? By their fruit. Listen, if you listening to this podcast and you taking notes, listen, take a note. That first, what Jesus said. Take what Jesus said first. You should know them by their fruit. But how can you know them by their fruit when you're blinded by what you want? How can you know them by their fruit when you're blinded by your own desire to achieve and build a relationship with people that you shouldn't even be in contact with, people who you don't even need to be around? Not saying you can't be cool, because I was encountering and dealing with these people in the class. That's different. You got to deal with people at work. You gotta, you know, there's some people you have to deal with in the way that you deal with them. But it's different whenever you go outside of what you know so that you can build some kind of comfort level. You ignore all of the red flags. And that's what I did. I ignored the red flag. I ignored that he said that he was jealous of me. I took it as a joke. I took it as a joke. I should have believed him. I should have believed him, but I didn't. So we move on. We start doing the project again to spare all the minute details. We go on in class, and then some issues sprout up in class. You know, it's some he say, she say going on. I ain't got nothing to do with that. I didn't have anything to do with that. There was one time the teacher, one of our instructors, was just pick the time to kind of go off on some people, because evidently somebody was talking about the class, and it definitely wasn't me, because I didn't talk to nobody about anything. But I made a comment when all the students came together. I think it was like after class. Y'all know how y'all do after church, but we did this after class. You know, some of y'all did that after class when you had little classes and workshops. Afterwards, we talked about it, and I gave my 2 cents on what I felt about what was said in the class, and that was that. And everybody else was talking as they were, and so. Moving on from there, we advanced to deciding that we're going to do a project that finally, so we all gather over this individual's house, and we all talk about, you know, throw story ideas out there. We throw them at the wall. He had this dry erase wall. And so we were throwing ideas, and he was writing them down on the thing. And so he just became like the ringleader of everything. He and that was fine, because he knew everybody. Everybody knew him, and he had a little bit of, you know, he had some experience. He done worked on some TV shows and stuff like that. So, you know, it is what it is. And so I'm trying my best to be humble, but none of these people have ever made a project before. None of them had any experience at making a film. At this point, I was probably, this is 2020. So at this point, I was probably at 15 short films under my belt, probably more than that. Some that won't never see the light of day. Some that just got scrapped. I was in. I had films under my belt. I had projects under my belt, and so it was hard to be in that situation, and I hear a bunch of people who've never made anything before talk about the process. Do you know how frustrating that is? It's like a baker sitting there listening to a bunch of people that specialize in eating cakes talk about making one. I hope y'all get what I'm trying to say. Because here I am, I'm a baker. I'm like, yo, I've been doing this, but I'm trying not to take control. I'm trying not to say, hey, yeah, well, you got to do it like this. You got to shoot like this. Because the fact of the matter is, and I talk about this with my brother in film all the time, it's like actors think they know the process until it's time to make one. Till it's time to make a film. Like, you don't know what you know. Like, you don't know what, just because you stand in front of a camera, you don't know what it takes to get the correct shot, like continuity, the editing. Like, you're thinking about the edit while you're shooting, right? I'm even thinking about this whole thing while we're coming up with an idea for the script. And so as we're still trying to come up with the idea for the script, everybody starts talking about it, and then there's a writer in the room, right? She's written some things, and so they don't really know who I am, and I'm trying not to, throw my power out. I'm not trying to do that, because that's not cool. You don't, I'm fairly new. I'm new to the group. I'm the new one to the group. Everybody else been there for like 2 years or a year at this point. And so I'm only like 6 months into being in LA, right? And so I'm trying to, I want to be cool. And so they start deciding who's going to do what. And I wanted to direct because I wanted to do a project already, right? And just use some of the actors in the class because I was a director, I'm a filmmaker, right? So I'm like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. And so they start voting, right? And here's where some of the jealousy comes out. And I knew it right away. It was another red flag. I knew it. The jealousy came out, but it came out. And see, here's the thing about jealousy, y'all. Jealousy doesn't always look like the obvious. It doesn't always look like, well, why he got to do, why she got to do that, well, why they got to, why. Nah, sometimes you can see it in the most subtle way. So while everybody's saying what they want to do, mostly everybody in the room are actors. Nobody's ever really produced anything except me in the room, in this particular room, right? And so when it came to writing, I write too, right? But I don't specialize in it. I'm good at it now, but I don't specialize in it. There's a writer in the room, but there are also other people that want to write as well. So the thing was, here's how I saw the jealousy play out real subtly. Was when it was time to pick a writer to say who's going to write it, he automatically chose old girl to write. And I was like, okay, cool. It wasn't nobody going to vote. But then it was time to like, all right, who's going to direct? I'm clearly the only person in the room with directing experience. So he sits at the board waiting. He waits for people to oppose. I raised my hand. I said, I can direct. It's like, okay, we'll want to direct. Everybody agree with that? Who all agree? He waits. I'm like, yo, for real? Like, y'all don't even have, like, I can't even say, I don't even want to say it. I don't even want to say, man, y'all ain't got no experience. I don't want to say that because I'm a look bad and I'm gonna leave a bad taste in people's mouths, and that's not who I am. And again, I'm new to the group. So I wait, and then everybody weighs in, and everybody says, yeah, I'm good with that. And everybody's kind of like, oh, yeah, I mean, yeah, he can direct. I'm cool. Like, yeah. Like, they not sure or something. And I'm like, wait, I'm not famous or nothing. But I'm like, I don't suck at what I do. Like, I'm good at what I do. And I had a feature film. My feature film is on Tubi to this day and Amazon Prime. And I'm like, I did that by myself, right? I had some help here and there. But for the most part, it was just me, my sound guy, and my actors. And that was it. And I'm like, yo, I got experience in making a whole movie. And most of them knew this because when I met them again, remember, I told y'all I showed them some of my work. And they were like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, man, you good. But everybody had like this should he direct? And then one of them was like, I ain't never seen Will direct. Like, I ain't seen Will work. And I'm like, what? Like, for real? Like, we doing that? This was crazy. And so I take it all in, and I'm taking it because I'm like, yeah, maybe, they don't know. They don't know. So we move on. It's like, all right. And then he finally decides, we'll direct him. All right, cool. And in the middle of all of this, we get some investors, the people that come into the project. And the guy who we get to be cinematographer is my buddy. It's my homie. Who I met the acting coach through, my buddy Harold. And so we get him the DP because I know like we locked in. We worked plenty of times before. I had a web series in Nashville, the Trauma web series, Troma. He shot some of my season 2 of that. And so, we locked in. It's like, again, like my brother. Like when I got to LA, his family literally became my family. Even our families, like we had my son's 13th birthday was in their backyard. They always invited us over. It was always, so shout out to them. Shout out to the Hall family. They have been for real, like family for real, for real. And so we got him to shoot, and he was with me for whatever, and some things went down, such as them starting to do the pre-production process without the director. And I started to grow irritated with this because I know the process, and the director is pretty much in charge of the production. And so it's not that I was soft-spoken, it was that I was trying not to step on nobody's toes in saying what I know. Now, mind you, most of these people are writers and actors. It's like writers and actors, and I don't want to say wannabe producers, but aspiring producers, right? And so this lady gets involved, and she's seen my work. She falls in love with my work, with the things that I've done. And so after things progress, and I'll just keep this part short, because after things progress, the guy who says he's the producer, who said he was jealous of me, the leader of it all, like kind of spearheading everything, right? He keeps doing things. It seems like he keeps doing things on purpose because he thinks the producer is supposed to choose wardrobe and all of these things. And so I end up having a problem with that, and I end up voicing my opinion on it and letting him know like how it's supposed to go. And he was like, "Well, I thought." And so my buddy Harold, he's an older guy. I ain't that much older. I think he in his 40s, like late 40s. I'm not sure. Harold, if you listen to this, I don't know how old you are, brother. I just know you're older than me. But so he was the one that was explaining to this individual that no, the director is supposed to pick the colors and all of this, the color palette and all that. And he was like, oh, he's trying to play stupid now. But the thing is, he just didn't want me to be in charge. Why? Because it rooted back to what he said. Told you everything is rooted, y'all. Everything is like the red flags are always there. But again, I chose to ignore it. I should have never did the project to begin with. So it gets so bad to the point where I'm getting so frustrated that they are picking wardrobe. They're picking locations without me. They're doing all these things without the director. And I wasn't trying to like throw my weight around. I'm just like, bro, that's not how it works. And if you want me to direct and be artistic in a vision, it becomes my vision. It's her vision. She wrote the script. I work with her in changing some things because of the location that we had. And so they didn't want to change anything. And I kept trying to like say, okay, we got to cut this out. We got to cut this out because I'm aware of time. I had David E. Talbert, a Hollywood director, as a mentor. And one thing he always told me when the times that I did talk to him, he said, always make your day. Always make your day, because the studios will try to find any reason for them to blame you for coming in over budget because you didn't make your day. To make your day, for those of you that don't know anything about that, it just simply means whatever you plan to shoot, make sure you shoot all of it. Make sure it's all shot. And so I want to make my day. And so they didn't want to cut things out. And what ended up happening was I ended up backing out of the project because they weren't listening. I had to. And so the guy who I told you I admired, the actor from the class, I told him I called him just to see, because I felt like I needed some reinforcements to back me up, to let me know that I did the right thing. I first of all, I talked to my homie, Harold. I asked him, I said, hey man, you think, he said, nah, man, like if you feel like you can't do it, they're not listening, then you ain't in the wrong. You try to tell them how to do it. You try to tell them you can't, that's it. and I'm with you. If you don't do it, I ain't doing it. And I was like, all right, man. And I felt bad about it because I didn't want to quit, but I was just frustrated with them not listening, like specifically him. And so when I told him when I backed out of the project, he puts everything I said in a chain email with all the actors in it. Everybody from the class that's in the project, he puts all of them in it. Because I can't even remember how I said I quit. Matter of fact, I think I still got the emails. But I can't remember how I said I quit, but I didn't disrespect nobody. I said, man, I'm gonna have to respectfully bow out because this is not what I'm used to. This is not how it goes. And so he calls me, goes completely bananas on the phone, cussing and everything. Mind you, I have not used a cuss word because I'm still saved. But I'm not realizing that I'm in a backslidden state because I forced myself into a group of people that I had no business really being that close to. So he goes off, and then while he's going off, like he stops, he kind of slows down, and he's like, "Man, I don't mean to yell at you. You're a grown man or whatever, but blah 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 blah. How you gonna lead the project? Blah blah." And so the executive producer calls me, and she's like, "Will, listen, I really said yes to financing because of you. I saw your work, and you impressed me. So I need you. You can't back out." And I was like, I want to do it. I really do. But they're not listening. And I tell her the process, and she's like, oh, okay. If she heard me, I'm not sure. But they also had some other things going on where they wanted to look like Hollywood. They wanted to have the whole video village and all of these things. So we was going back and forth. So my DP, my buddy Harold, was going through it with them on video village, trying to do stuff that didn't need to, because that just increases the budget. And that takes away from the money that really all of the money was supposed to go on screen. But they wanted things that that was just going to look a certain way, but it wasn't going to really produce a better film. And so I back out, and she kind of talks me back into it. And I told her I'd let her know. And then like I said, I called Buddy, dude who he knew, who he was friends with for a long time. And I asked him, he told me, wasn't nothing wrong with what I did. He said I did kind of put him in the bind because, it was kind of last minute because I quit the week before the shoot. And they wasn't ready. And then finally I decided, all right, I'm gonna do it. That was my mistake when I came back to it, because my first feeling, the thing that I did that I didn't want to do was what I was supposed to do. Let me ask you that question. And I want y'all to leave it down in the comments of the review of this episode. Have you ever made the right decision the first time, and because of emotions and feelings and other people's feelings and your reputation, you went back to it and you recanted or you reneged on your first decision, which was the right decision? Have you ever done that? Well, this is what I did. I actually ended up going back to the project. And when I go back to the project, now it's a vibe. It's a certain kind of feel. It's spirits, right? It's spirits, because he said something smart about me to everybody in the email chat, in the email thread. And so now people looking at me crazy because I quit 7 days before the shoot, which I can understand if they felt some type of way. But at the same time, they would have to understand where I'm coming from, because everything that I was telling him, he was like, he also kept telling me, he said, put it in the group, the group email. No, I'm talking to you, the producer. This ain't for them. This ain't for the actors. This is for you. You in charge. In terms of seeing the production through, that it gets made. I'm just in charge of the vision of it. You're in charge of the business side and the logistics, not me. So I'm talking to you. And when he kept doing that, that's what pushed me to quitting. That's exactly what pushed me into quitting the project, because he kept trying to get me to say it to everybody what I was against. And it wasn't for everybody. It was just for him. And the EP. I put her in the email thread as well. So he basically badmouths me to the actors in a group thread, in a group email. And basically, I'm sure that there was some further conversation, because when I said yes and I returned to the project, me and my buddy, my buddy Harold, we returned to the project, and it's just it's a spirit. I'm dealing with kind of like these little. Some people act regular, some people wasn't phased, but then there was some people that were acting a little funny. I could say that. And, because one of my things, and here's another point that I learned about me. I wanted to be liked. I wanted to be liked. I didn't want anybody to dislike me. I didn't want nobody to dislike me. So I made the decision of quitting. I made the decision of quitting because it was the right thing to do to me. It was the right thing to do to me. So when I went back to it again, everybody, some people was acting weird, some people was acting funny. And then he pulls me to the side. They had a gathering. I think it was it Thanksgiving? I can't remember. It was some kind of gathering, some holiday toward the last couple months of the year. And so it was a weird vibe. It was a weird vibe. And so he pulls me to the side. He says, "Hey, Will, can I talk to you for a second?" I go and talk to him. And he basically, he don't even really apologize for what he did, for how he talked to me. But guess what I do? I apologize. I apologize. Why did you apologize? Well, I apologize for putting him in the bind. I apologize for quitting at the last minute. And so he plays this moment as if he had to talk people. Man, this is crazy. He was talking to me like, this is exactly what he said. He was like, well, I had to convince everybody to let you back in to direct. What? Hey, I had to convince everybody to let you in after you let. He said it did something to me, and I had to convince everybody, that we all, we having issues and stuff like that. And I was like, wow. First of all, it was probably a lie. Secondly, it was probably him trying to make them feel a certain way. I can't really speak to that, but I'm just going off what he told me, right? And so I'm like, okay, I understand that. But that made me feel some kind of way. Now I'm uncomfortable. Now I hate that I said that I came back, because I don't like for people to make it seem like, regardless of me wanting to be cool with everybody, it's one thing I do not like. Don't try to make me feel like I'm begging to come back. That's not what happened. I literally just said, I'll go ahead and do it. There was no No, well, we don't know. Well, we gotta find out. We gotta see what everybody else thinks. It wasn't no none of that. I just said I'd come back and that was the end of it. But here you telling me something different and you making me feel like I begged to come back or it was off their say so that I came back. No, the EP wanted me to come back. The executive producer who was putting up some of the money for it wanted me to come back. And I one of the things that really made me come back was the people. It was the people. I didn't want to do them folks like that. It wasn't in me to say, I quit. Forget all y'all. No, that was the reason why I didn't say I didn't jump off earlier when I should have. Right? And so again, I go on through it. So that was one thing I learned about me is that I wanted to be liked. And not just that, I cared about people. I cared about their time. I cared about their craft. I cared about what they were trying to do as well. So I said, I don't want to, let me just go on and do it. And so I also offered to edit the film as well. So I was already doing too much off the rip because I wanted to be liked. And not only that, I wanted to edit the film because I directed the film. And my friend was shooting the film. And I know how he shoots and we work well together. Right? So there was it wasn't going to be difficult for me because if I direct the film, it's easier for me to edit it. Right? And so, long story short, y'all, we end up doing the film. And remember I told y'all I was trying to get them to cut pages and cut scenes, but they didn't want to do it. So we start shooting the film in a high rise. I can't tell you where it was and whose place it was and all of that, but we start shooting in the high rise. The high rise is not written in the script. The script is a cabin in the script. There are things that happen specifically in a cabin. But how can you do that when you're 44 to 50 floors high in a high-end luxury condo? How can you do what's in a cabin in a high rise? It's impossible. So of course there were a lot of things that had to be cut out, but they still didn't want to cut it out. So guess what happened? We spent 2 days shooting in this place and I didn't get to make my day when I told them up front what to do. Even my buddy, he was like, hey, you got to cut this, you got to cut this, you got to cut that. They didn't want to do it. And so everything doesn't get shot. And then we come up on early wee hours of the morning when we're supposed to be out of the place, out of the location. And we're still shooting. Why? Because again, they didn't want to take anything out. And so I was like, man, see, I should have stayed off because now they have a reason to blame me for why everything didn't get shot. Again, I didn't do it. It was not my fault. And this individual that was calling the shots was playing on set. So much so that my buddy, he had to go off on him. He had to let him know something real professional. Like, hey, man, I'm sitting here. You sitting up here playing. He was making faces on the other actors. It was an over-the-shoulder shot, and we were over his shoulder. And he was making the actor laugh. And we're like, yo, come on, we pressing for time. But then they turn around when the project is over and they blame me for the unfinished project. So we finally get to the end of the shoot. Everybody's exhausted. I'm even more exhausted because I know this film is not going to work. And me and my cinematographer, we're talking. We're like, man, hey, if we just do this and we cut this and we make this could be a cool reel to get a feature made. But it ain't gonna make sense as a short right now. So again, and I'm going somewhere with this, y'all. I'm going somewhere with this. So we finish. They see it's looking good. I had a shot list and everything. I was prepared. We finished the shoot because, as a matter of fact, we were shooting with 2 cameras. And I was trying to simplify some stuff by doing some oneers. Those of you that know film, I was doing some oneers. I was trying to be creative while being limited. And so I specialize in making things for nothing, making something out of nothing. Praise God for that ability. But we go on, right? And we were supposed to get some B-roll of the city of LA, and, you know, we didn't ever get a chance to do that because I wanted to cut what we had, right? And so after this, y'all, I hear nothing else from anybody. There was a friend of his that made music out of Atlanta that he wanted to put the music in the film. And I'm like, okay, cool. I listened to it. I'm like, okay, cool. It fits. I'll put it in this club part or whatever. And it was weeks before I heard back from anybody. While I'm editing, I'm in the editing phase. And meanwhile, we're going to class. We're going to acting class. Everybody still got that little weird about them because of everything that went down. And so I'm not hearing nothing from anybody. I'm not hearing anything from anybody. Right? And so I even talked to the writer. Nothing. Right? Nothing. And so I feel like they feel some type of way about me because we didn't get to finish. But that wasn't my fault. Right? I'm telling y'all verbatim everything that happened. And one of the details, let me add this, because when I finally heard from him, he asked me for the drive to back up the footage. He asked me for the drive to back up the footage. Now, if somebody's in the middle of editing, it is the editor's job to back up the footage. It is even a DIT's job to back up the footage on set, but we didn't have none of that, right? So there's no footage backed up, but I'm editing now. So you want me to stop editing so that I can give you the drive to make a backup? No, sir, that's not how that works. But because you're the producer, I close out the project on my iMac and I take the drive to acting class and I give it to one of the actors to give it to him. And so it took me about probably a week before I got it back. So now you put me at a pause. Now I can't edit because all of the footage is there. And I didn't save the footage nowhere else because you save space when you edit from the drive if there's more space on it. And so he made a copy and eventually they got it back to me. And then I didn't hear anything else for about a month. I wanted to say 2 months, but I don't think it was that long. I think it was about a month maybe. And finally, I put together a cut. It's about 14-minute cut. It was a 27, 25-page script or 20-page script that I was trying to get chopped down to about 15. But we didn't finish all of it. We didn't finish shooting every single thing that we needed to shoot, right? It was a lot of time wasted, a lot of planning going on. We didn't get to finish. And so I get a phone call while I'm doing Instacart, right? I get a phone call while I'm doing Instacart. And I had asked a question already before this phone call. Let me back up. Before this phone call that I got, we were filming something, and one of the actors, I was talking to one of the actors, and I just casually asked, did they get somebody else to edit the film? Now, the reason I want to know this is because of what I know. This is why when you don't belong in a circle, don't put yourself in circles you don't belong in. Don't do it, because their understanding is not going to always be your understanding. This is almost equivalent to being unequally yoked with unbelievers. Instead, you're being unequally yoked with people who don't know nothing about what you do, or even how to do what you do. Because these problems would have never happened had, first of all, jealousy not been at the root of the relationship to begin with. But I ignored all of that for the sake of fitting in, for the sake of having actor friends in LA. Right? So I asked, and they was like, and the individual was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think they got anybody to edit it, because that's all I can think. I'm thinking like that because you had a problem with me. Everybody's acting kind of funny and weird on set. Some people, not everybody. Because I know, you ever walked into a room and you know somebody and they've been talking about you? Like there's a vibe that comes with that. I don't care what nobody says. There is a vibe that comes with walking into a room or dealing with people that have had something to say, or somebody in the room has something bad to say about you. They didn't correct it. Neither did they. They may not have even said anything, but the fact remains is that they said something or that they heard something, and everybody's acting weird. And so that is what I was getting the entire time, even while we were shooting. Like, everybody was acting cool, but it was like some people, it was like a fake cool. And so when you ask for the drive after we've already had this issue, I'm thinking you got somebody else to edit on the side, because you don't know what I'm going to do. You think I'm a sabotage. Oh, I don't know what in the world they were thinking. But that's what I felt. And so when she told me that, I was like, oh, okay. So I got the drive back. I edit, and then they call me out the blue. Now it's about 30 days later or so, and they call me out the blue talking about, the film should have been done by now. Where's the project? You just asked me to give you the drive. It took you a week to give it back to me. I gave it to him on that Thursday. I got it back probably that next Thursday. Right? And so, yeah, like it was crazy. It was crazy. And so they're asking me about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm not done yet. And so this is when I get the phone call while I'm doing Instacart. And they're basically asking me, they're basically saying, where the film at. Then they got this other guy on the phone, who's a good guy. I consider him a friend to this day. But they get him on the phone as a mediator, as if I've been a problem. Like, they get a mediator on the phone, like a fair voice. I'm like, so what, y'all calling the gang up on me? So it's like two people, like one person on the phone. There's one person on the phone. It's like, it's two people on the same phone, and he's on his own phone, this individual that yelled at me, right? So he does it again on this call, talking about how the film's supposed to be done. I'm like, who you talking to? Like, now I'm getting upset. Now I'm getting out of, like, now I'm like, man, I know where you live, bro. You like you can get these hands. And I don't even fight like that for real. Like, I don't even say for real. Like, I wouldn't even say for real, but I don't fight. But the way that everything that we did, from day one, like, I'm like, I got a smooth pimp smack or punch, like, in me at this point, because y'all calling me to check me on something that I've been trying to be in contact with y'all about, but y'all kept, like, curving me with one-word answers, one-word text messages. I was even sending them pictures, like, cause I'm good at Photoshop too, so I was sending them photos. I was sending them screenshots of potential posters. And they saying stuff like, I don't love it. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know how to take none of this at this point, because y'all already had a problem with me. So my homie was telling me, man, you know what? Don't edit nothing else. Just give him the drive back. He said, don't edit nothing else. But they on the phone checking me, talking about the we shot the film this time. It's supposed to be done. Did you even get the B-roll that y'all said y'all was gonna get? I said, no, we didn't get the B-roll because there was other things that I had to do for the film. And so, like, I found myself answering him like he my boss. Like I didn't get paid for none of this. They wasn't paying me. I was happy to do it because it was a mutual thing. Like I loved it. So the other actors, the writer and the other actors, they chime in with him and agree with him. Like, it has been a long time. And then because I gave them a cut, but it wasn't really done because it was a lot of stuff that we didn't get to shoot. We had to skip it. And so they was like, well, I mean, it looked good, but it's just like the story don't make sense. No, duh. We didn't shoot some stuff because y'all wouldn't listen. That's the purpose of rewrites. But then nobody want to listen. So guess what they did? They pinned the unsuccess of that film on me. Had everybody everybody that was on the project had something to do with the project looking at me like, well, Will, what happened to the film? And then guess what they did? They turned around, they scrapped it, but I'm sure they took it, and I'm sure they took pieces of it, and they like pieces. I know they like pieces of it. I know, because I'm good at what I do. No cockiness, no arrogance, but I'm good at filmmaking. I'm a filmmaker. I might be a pastor now. I know I might do a lot of other things. I mean, make music, but I'm a filmmaker. Like, I'm good at it. Like, let's not. I'm not gonna kid myself. I'm not gonna lie. With all confidence, I say that all my bragging and boasting is in the Lord because He's the one that gave me the gift. But I'm good at it. I'm an award-winning filmmaker. And here are people who have no awards, no type of filmmaking background, only standing in front of a camera looking pretty. And you're going to tell me how to do it. Never been, can't tell going to how to get there. But somehow, people do it. And so that got me out of my character. So it leads me to my main point in a text that I want to read to you. I know that was a lot, y'all, but y'all bear with me. There was a blind man in the book of Mark, chapter 8. And I saw myself as the blind man because I came across this text after. And I realized that I was actually far from God. I realized I was really far from God. So I made the wrong friends at the right time. Why was it the right time, though? Because from jump, I was never supposed to be in that situation. It wasn't wrong for me to be in the acting class. It wasn't wrong for me to befriend people. It wasn't wrong for me to be cool with people. But it was wrong for me to try to fit in. It was wrong for me to try to show my stuff. Because in the end, it caused me drama. It caused me stuff that I didn't even ask for. So while the outcome of the situation wasn't my fault, me going through it was my fault. And I found myself as a blind man in Bethsaida, such as the blind man here in this text in Mark chapter 8, starting at verse 22 in the NASB. It says, and they came to Bethsaida, and they brought a blind man to Jesus and implored him to touch him. Taking the blind man by the hand, Jesus brought him out of the village, and after spitting on his eyes and laying his hands on him, he asked the man, do you see anything? And the man looks up and he says, I see men, for I see them like trees walking around. This is interesting because the man's sight is not fully restored. But let's go back. Let's go back. He's a blind man in Bethsaida. Bethsaida is a place where Jesus didn't like to go. Woe unto Bethsaida. He's done many things. He worked many miracles, and yet they didn't believe. So basically, this blind man was in the land of unbelievers. And here's how I understood this text is because when the first step of deliverance, was for the man to take the hand of Jesus. And Jesus pulls him out of the village. He pulls him out of this toxic town full of toxic people. And some people preach this and say that, thank God for some people. Thank God for friends that'll take you to Jesus. Well, I don't quite believe that they were believers because of what Jesus said about Bethsaida and the fact that this man goes blind. I believe that these were people that just wanted to see what Jesus could do. They just wanted to see that he could open up blinded eyes. And so Jesus takes him by the hand, pulls him out of the village. And after spitting on his eyes, see, for me, the spit represents washing. The spit represents the spirit. It does. It represents the spirit. Why? Because when he touches him, the man can't see fully, but he can see something. And what intrigues me about this text is that the man says, I see men as trees walking around. If you've been blind the whole time, which scripture does not tell us that this man was blind from birth, this means that he went blind from being in Bethsaida. So Bethsaida and the toxic environment that he was in around toxic people blinded his vision. So now the only way to be able to see again, and the only way to be able to see how you got into that situation, is that he spits on the man's eyes. He spits, he says, I see men walking the streets. Wait a minute, if you were blind your whole life, how do you know what trees look like? How do you know what trees look like? He says, I see men as trees walking. So that's the interesting part about it. Is that, bruh, you could see before, but you were in a place where you did not belong, and it destroyed your vision. The scripture says in the Old Testament, for my people perish for a lack of knowledge. That's one. And then it says, for without a vision, the people perish. What is the vision? The vision ain't what people try to make it to be when they say write the vision and make it plain. That's not the vision. The vision that the lack of vision people perish is their lack of vision of keeping their eyes on the Most High God. And when you don't keep your eyes on the Lord, you perish. And so here we find a blind man who is delivered by Jesus, by him taking his hand and pulling him out of the village, spitting on his eyes. Spiritual. This is a spiritual move right here, because this is the first time. This is what's amazing about this text is that you don't see this in any other gospel. You don't see this in Matthew. You don't see this in Luke. And you definitely won't see it in John. But you only see this in Mark. He spits on his eyes and he says, what do you see? He says, I see men as trees walking. Okay, so you weren't blind always. You could see before. So now I need you to see what you really were supposed to see so that you wouldn't have been in the situation that you were in that village. You would have never made it to that village if you could see what you see now. And this is before his sight is clear. Why does he say that I see men as trees walking? Why does Jesus only partially heal him? Because the true healing was the first healing that happened. And it's the same thing to this day. The first true healing that happens for all of us is that he saves our souls when we convert. That he heals our souls. It says, and by his stripes we are healed. That's not talking about your body. That's talking about your soul. By his stripes we are healed. So When he spits on the man's eyes, the man was seeing spiritually. Because Jesus would later say that you will know them by their fruit. I said this earlier. You would know them by their fruit. And what do fruit grow on? Trees. So in other words, Jesus was saying, I need you to see people for who they are by their fruit, so that you will not end up in a blind space doing things that you have no business doing. And that's why I said I found myself with the wrong friends at the right time, because I brought it upon myself. Because I had a desire to be liked. I had a desire to have community. And so, after he sees men like trees walking around, verse 25, it says, then again, he laid his hands on his eyes, and he looked intently and was restored and began to see everything clearly. I like how King James Version, KJV, says this. It says that he began to see every man clearly. See, when you have spiritual sight and you know somebody by their fruit, you can see them clearly. See, I was dazed by the idea of this community. I was dazed by the idea of people knowing what I could do, what I was good at. I was under that. And because I was under that, it caused me to walk into a village and lose my sight. So eventually I praised God because I came out. And because of it, I'm better. I learned a lot of bad things about myself that caused me to be in those situations. So I can talk about bad friends. I can talk about people who mean you no good. I could talk about getting rid of toxic people. I'm cool with some. I wouldn't say I'm cool with them, but I'm cordial. Like I don't hold nothing against anybody. And I had to forgive them, even though they didn't ask for forgiveness. You got to be. See, that's a whole nother episode. I ain't gonna go into that. But I had to forgive them so that I could move on and really be okay with being treated like that, because I got yelled at on that phone like he was my daddy and he was younger than me. And I was so ready to put my hands on him. Whether he could fight good or not, I wasn't worried about that. You weren't gonna talk to me like that. So that was flesh. Flesh began to rise up. You can't afford to be around people who's going to do their best to try to resuscitate the flesh. It is the job of the devil to do CPR on your flesh. Because as we live in Christ and walk in the Spirit, we are dead to the flesh. We're dead to sin. We're dead to all of that. We're dead to getting angry, ready to fight. Listen, all of that is done away with. We're dead to sin. We are alive in Christ. So because we are alive in Christ, we're supposed to walk in the Spirit so that you cannot do what you want. That's what Galatians chapter 5 says. You can't do what you want. And so, I thank God that other brother was on the phone, because he made me so mad too, because at the time, every time I got ready to come back, I was about to drop the N-bomb and everything. Every time I got ready to talk over him, he would never let me overtalk them, but he would let them overtalk me. And I couldn't figure that out for the life of me. I was upset with him for a long time. I was like, how would you not let me get what I need to say out? And I never asked him that question. I just had to learn from the Holy Spirit in that moment that it wasn't meant for you to say. He said he was there. He probably didn't even know what he was doing. And he was probably being biased in the moment, didn't even realize it, because he knew them longer than he knew me. But he probably didn't know that the Lord was using him to keep me from saying something that was going to destroy my reputation for even this moment today. Where if some of them heard he's a pastor, they could say, oh, I believe it. Oh, I believe it. Because I never told him, oh, I was a preacher. I wanted all that to be Like, this is 2020. Like, I wanted that to be like, come on, bro. Like, I ain't telling nobody that. But eventually, by the end of 2020, I ended up repenting and getting back right with the Lord. Because I realized, man, I can't do what everybody else can do. And when you are a child of God, there's just a lot of things that you can't do. This is why Scripture would tell us in 1 John that to not love the world, neither love the things that are in the world. For all that is in the world is the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. And if anybody loves the world, the love of the Father is not in them. That's why I had to take a step back. And my love, my desire to want to be in Hollywood or Hollyweird just kind of dissolved. Because I spent enough time out there in the atmosphere. And while I love the weather, I would love to move back, but not for film, not for the industry. Because I could have the industry in my backyard. I'm good at what I do. I don't need nobody. In terms of like studios and major help I don't see the love of money is the root of all evil. I'm not willing to do anything that's going to ask me to sacrifice my morals for a paycheck. And I'm not saying that everybody has to do that to be there, but it just wasn't in me no more. I love the indie scene. I love doing things on my own with a group of people that want to work together and want to get stuff done. So, but listen, I hope that you got something out of this episode because it was truly a lesson. And listen, I prayed. I got to a point to where I really prayed for them. You know, I really prayed for them. And there's no love lost. If they called me today or sent me a message today, I would message back. I don't have anything against them to this day. Like, I really don't. I really don't. I wonder for the longest, why did I get treated? And I played victim for it with that situation for probably about 2-3 months. And it did bother me for a while. It bothered me because I was really trying to figure out, like, what did I do? Like, really, what did I do? And what I did was too much. I tried to insert myself into something that I wasn't supposed to be in. So, again, I pray that I said something that helps you. I'm not sure how long this episode is. I think it's over an hour, but you're not in a Bethsaida. Because the way that I see Bethsaida, he begins after he lays his hand on the blind man, and he sees everything clearly. Verse 26 says, and he sent him to his home, saying, do not even enter the village. Go back to where I just brought you out of. Don't go back to the place where you lost your vision. So make sure that if the Lord has spit on your eyes, that you are carefully, because you know the devil is always looking for us to slip up and mess up. And if you walk in the Spirit, you'll be all right. All right. So this concludes this episode of the Soul Fuel Podcast. Again, this is the pit stop for you to get gassed up, for your soul to get gassed up for your journey in this life with Christ. And so, again, I want you to share this episode with somebody. Go download it on every platform. It's available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Deezer, wherever you listen to podcasts. All right. I want you to share this, and share this. All right. And if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button because there's way much more coming your way. All right. God bless you. It's Will signing out. Peace.